When an earthquake and tsunami fatally compromised a nuclear plant in Japan in March, Americans asked whether a similar disaster could strike here. Well, now, only 3 months later, we've got the spectacle of an American nuclear power plant surrounded by floodwaters and thousands evacuating the area around the Los Alamos nuclear lab due to a raging wildfire nearby. Officials say the appropriate safeguards are in place. But a new investigation suggests that existing evacuation plans are inadequate. So, could it happen here? Here's ABC's Jim Sciutto.
We now know all too well what it looks like when natural disasters and nuclear power plants collide. Today, a fast-growing and unpredictable wildfire in New Mexico came within 1 mile of the nation's preeminent nuclear lab, the Los Alamos National Laboratory. At the same time, massive flooding of the Missouri River has turned the Fort Calhoun nuclear power plant in Nebraska into an island.
We have stranger, bizarre weather patterns that are unpredictable. As a consequence, we may have to reevaluate the risk that we engaged in at the beginning of the nuclear age.
In this year of unexpected, devastating weather, many are asking, are our plants completely safe from Mother Nature?
At Fort Calhoun, if water levels surge just a few feet higher, at that point we're talking about short-circuiting of the pumps, leading to a loss of coolant. Water levels could drop, exposing the core, and then we could have a 3-mile island, we could have a Fukushima all over again.
Fort Calhoun Station issued this statement to ABC News saying, quote, Fort Calhoun remains safe and secure despite the elevated river levels and flooding conditions in the area. River levels are not expected to exceed 1,008 feet. And as he surveyed Fort Calhoun today, the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Greg Jasko, told us that both Fort Calhoun and Los Alamos are safe.
So there's absolutely no reason now to do any type of emergency evacuation at these sites.
And yet we now know that any accident would put more people at risk than ever before. Across the country, according to a new investigation by the Associated Press, as plants have grown older, the once rural areas around them have grown more crowded and, crucially, more difficult to evacuate. Populations within the 10-mile evacuation zones up 162% around the Pilgrim plant in Plymouth, Massachusetts, up 283% around San Onofre plant near Los Angeles, and around Turkey Point plant near Miami, up 302%. And how good are the existing evacuation plans? The AP found emergency drills that didn't involve any actual people, and little accounting for bad weather or earthquake damage to roads and bridges. As these population centers have grown, have the evacuation plans grown with them?
The evacuation plans have been updated, but in my view, they have not taken into account the issues associated with this uncontrolled population growth very close to these plants.
Take New York's Indian Point power plant just north of New York City. Evacuating a 50-mile radius would mean moving more than 17 million people, 6% of the U.S. population, restricted by 2-lane roads and busy bridges.
Frankly, the idea that you can ask a population, let's say within 50 miles of Indian Point in New York City, to evacuate within a matter of hours is absolutely ludicrous.
50 miles happens to be the evacuation distance Jasko recommended for Americans in Japan after the Fukushima disaster. Today we asked him why the requirement for the U.S. remains just 10 miles.
Even in Japan, it was multiple days to a week before we really saw the significant types of challenges. In the United States, we anticipate the same kind of situation. You would have time to adjust and expand evacuation zones if necessary.
Another investigation by the AP found radioactive tritium has leaked from 3/4 of U.S. nuclear power sites.
It kind of destroyed our whole life.
Tom and Judy Zimmer had just moved into their home near the Braidwood nuclear power plant outside Chicago in 2005. The plant owners showed up on their doorstep.
I didn't even know what tritium was when we first came out here, but I knew that anything radioactive was no good for you.
Today the Zimmers can't sell their house, and Judy has developed cancer. They cannot prove a cause. The plant's owner, Exelon, says it has nearly finished cleaning up the leak, and the tritium levels were always below EPA danger limits. Nationally, plants are inspecting equipment and pipes more often to spot leaks before they happen. But it's what the industry cannot predict that worries its critics. Powerful natural disasters that no one can prevent. I'm Jim Sciutto for Nightline in Washington.